Okay, so this is the new version 8 Virtual DJ. There's a new skin design, new layout, designed to look a bit slicker and more professional than the old version, which had a reputation for its default layout. It's now movable and resizable without having to change skins. You can drag and the browser resizes and everything stays nice and sharp. You can zoom it in and it's still reasonably good. It's not blocky, it's not loading up the CPU like the old version did. Along with that is a new config window, new layout, new design, designed to be easier to use for users to just plug in controllers and go. If you plug in a controller that's supported by Virtual DJ and has a built-in sound card, the sound configuration is automatically configured for you. There's nothing for you to do there unless you want to change it. You can plug a controller in that's supported and go. You don't need to do any configuration at all. There's a new skin selection window that lets you preview all your skins so you can easily select. The mapping interface has changed. You can assign controllers to decks very easily, and all the actions are now grouped so that you can find actions more easily. There's autocomplete and search capabilities on the actions, and you can click the button down there and assign an action from a skin control as well, so you can learn from the skin directly. All the advanced options that were in an extra tool before are now all built into the software. You don't need anything to change any setting. You can search on settings. For example, if you want to change the setting for the coloured waveforms, you just search for colour waveform and you can toggle it there. You can also revert back to default, so if you mess it all up, you can go back to how it was when it was installed. The browser's been modified. You'll see gone are the buttons at the top that let you select between effects and sampler. They're all docked down the side here. You can drag and drop to reorder columns. You can edit a track. You can change its colour in the browser, so you can make a track red so it shows up in the browser as being red, so you can colour code tracks for easy recognition, and you can write all the information that you've got or read all the information from tags as well. Cover art has been enhanced. You'll see you've got cover flow there. When you drag a track to the deck, you get the cover art that goes with it, and then you can have the cover art displayed on the deck, and you can have the cover art displayed on the video output as well if you want. Effects have been rewritten and redesigned. You now get a new drop-down menu for effects. You can activate multiple effects simultaneously, and you can create groups of effects for easy access. When you select an effect, you can configure it and it will dock in the browser area automatically. If you've got screen in state or another monitor or something, you can undock it and move it anywhere you like. You can then redock it, and you can activate it from that docked window as well. Buttons along here to toggle the skin panels, so you can switch to effect there, so you get the one you've got selected will always show there, for example. You can also select now video effects per deck as well. So in previous versions, video effects were applied to the master output only. Now you can affect an individual deck and the master output, so you can apply to each deck and then to the master as well. And the video effects again dock it in the same place, in the same way as audio effects. There's an improvement to the cue point system. It's called points of interest now. You still have cue points. When you first analyse a track, a number of things are created. It detects where it thinks you would want to have all the Atomix points for different types of mixes, for cut mixes, fade mixes and tempo mixes. It detects where it thinks the first beat is, and it detects all the breaks and drops markers there as well. You can then add your own cue points. You can do this from the controller or from the GUI by being in a position and dropping a cue point, or you can do it in here and you can zoom in on the waveform and drop a marker wherever you want. You can then change that to be a saved loop position, so you set the number of beats for that loop, and it can still be a cue point as well on all these actions as well, so it can be a cue point and a saved loop point, so you can jump to a point and then initiate a loop. Also, whilst we're on the loops now, you can see that loops are now highlighted in the waveform, and also if you put up the scratch waves, you can see you've got the loop highlighted there as well in the scratch wave, and you can mouse wheel, scroll, zoom, and the rhythm wave as well. It's a nice smooth bouncy effect. You can tie a command to a cue point, so you can execute any command the Virtual DJ can run. So you could use that, for example, to interface with the various lighting softwares that we support to trigger lighting scenes and sequences to synchronize your lighting show automatically, or to trigger an effect automatically, or whatever you can think of really. We have remix points. these aren't actually fully implemented yet, so they, at the moment they're just quantized snaps at the moment, but you'll be able to, there's roll insert and mix options and loop continue block options, which hopefully, once they're implemented, will work well. Big grid anchors, you can now change the spaces between individual blocks, so you can change the grid to be flexible, to change tempo with irregular tempo songs, and if you've got one that, say, changes tempo halfway through a transition mix or something, you could beat grid marker out all the individual beats so that you can still use quantized functions and effects that use the timing grid for effects, so and sync as well. Atomix point, and you can set a separate load point as well. So where it goes to when it first loads, you can change it from not being the start of the track or the first cue. You can make it a different point if you want. Probably the next one we want to look at then is the new sample engine. It looks broadly the same as it did before. If you look at it here, you think there's not much to it. There's easy access banks to the samples there. However, there is actually quite a big difference. If you open up the sampler, all the buttons now have visual representations. You can create multiple banks of samples, and you can add as many as you want. There's no limit there to how many you can add. You can open up your sample bank, access the waveform, you can move the markers, you can change the length of it, you can change its mode and its volume. You can also easily, if you create a loop on a deck, you can then select new, record, and I've dropped that loop to the deck, to the sampler. You can then open up that, and you'll see it's there, natural, the waveform. Because it's not actually a recording of the audio file, it uses a data descriptor to mark where it is. You can then edit that sample after you've created it, moving it around and doing stuff. So you can edit a sample to be as you want it after it's created. You can also, on top of that, if you load a video track, do the same thing. And I'll open up the bank again. You see you've got a video option there. This means you can take the video from the track as well and use that as a sample. You can then, if you want to, resize it, reposition it. Then maybe you want to take a colour from the video and turn it into an alpha channel. So if you've got a black background, you can remove the background. So you can have a 3D spinning logo or something constantly running at a time doing various effects. Again, uses no disk space because it's a data descriptor, so you can literally create hundreds of thousands of samples without using more than a meg of data or something silly. As part of the audio work, a new audio engine has been implemented supporting up to 192 kilohertz 32-bit audio, so any sound card on the market pretty much, you won't have to worry about resampling to get the problem we had with the various 48 kilohertz. We have to downsample at the moment to 44.1 to get the output, and in the case of the MC6000 we have to go from your audio to 44.1 to 48 again, because the Denon 6000 was locked to 48 kilohertz.
Okay.
So that fixes all of those kind of issues. There's a new time stretch engine. It actually sounds, we were doing some demos on the stand, we were stretching various songs down to minus 40% without any particular massive issues.
Wow, that's good.
And no CPU loading doing it either. It was the CPU didn't even move whilst we were stretching down to 40%. There was a bit of reverb, but that's to be expected at that kind of speed. But there was no artifacting or anything. It was just, it was nice. There's a new Timecode Engine coming. As you know, Gwen from DJWORX is now working on the software, and he's bringing across a new Timecode Engine for us. So we're working on the timecode response.
Will that be your own timecode, or is that to work with everybody else's timecode?
It'll probably work with everyone else's timecodes,
okay.
Rather than going down the route we used to have our own timecode vinyl, and then we switched to using Serato's timecode vinyl. And now we support almost all of them.
Okay.
So. There's also the timeline remix mode, which you can switch to. You load your tracks in, you get the colour waveform, you can then load another track in. Once it's analysed, you can then grab its waveform, you can move it around with a quantized snap, you can position it, you can zoom in and position it. You can then say fade in. I want to cut out a section of the track because I don't like it. So I'm going to take that out, shift that across so it meets that, and that will affect the video output as well, so you can cut skits out of video tracks and things like that. And then you can activate that and it will jump in seamlessly from where it was, and then you can see the timeline flashing at the top to tell you it's active, and then at any time you can deactivate the timeline and it will carry on playing the track it was playing at the time, so there's no interruption in audio.
So we've seen this at NAMM, we've
Yep.
seen this at Mesa, we've seen it at BPM. When's it coming out? As he looks over his shoulder.
Well, Andrew stated in an interview with Digital DJ Tips that Q2 2013 is the target release date.
So, to me, that's you making sure that this is absolutely 100% perfect.
We have a team testing it continually at the moment, reporting every little bug they find, and it's all being logged and all being tracked. Every little bug is being investigated and looked at. We're backwards testing all plugins and everything to make sure everything works as expected, and that the upgrade experience hopefully will be as seamless as possible.